Missing words. So here there are 3 different blanks and there is a paragraph, mini paragraph of sorts, and 3 sets of words are given and there are 4 options. We need to choose the right word. The question is straightforward here. Let's move on with it. Coral reefs are one of the most biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems. So there is something that kind of describes what coral reefs are. So because there is one description here, they are complex, biologically complex. 2, they are diverse, and so there must be something else that quantifies the adjective that can be attributed to coral reefs. So that much we have as a clue now. Second, we'll move on. This ecosystem is one of the paradoxes of the biosphere. What is a paradox? Paradox is like something that seems one way but need not necessarily be that. For example, Sachin is playing at the age of 38. It could be a paradox because we might be coming from a point where we think he is old enough and he is playing, but deep down he might be facing a lot of injuries while playing cricket. So those are sets of paradoxes that we are talking about. Paradoxes of the biosphere. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such and productive communities? So there is productive and there is and. Remember, and is always a conjunction where 2 similar ideas are used. But is used as a conjunction when one idea opposes another idea that's being put out. So, for example, he is rich but miserly. Rich is having a lot of wealth, miserly is not willing to give away it. So, there are contrasting ideas but will be used as a conjunction. Whereas, he is good at academics and he is good at singing. These are 2 different things. The person is good at both. So, these are similar ideas. So, here we see the presence of and productive, meaning there must be something very similar to productive that we are looking to fill in the third blank. So these are the clues that we have for now, and we'll look at the options. A, common, sensitive and fruitful. Coral reefs are one of the most biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on earth. So we are talking about complexity, we are talking about paradoxes. Can common be one of the words that can come here? So they are describing something that is special, that is unique, that is not found in all the places, that is very limited in scope and that has some special characteristic features. Common need not necessarily be the right adjective that goes and fits in there, but let's move on to the next one. We'll still keep it here. This ecosystems is one of the sensitive paradoxes of the biosphere. Okay, that still fits in. I mean, because clear and nutrient poor etc. signify some degree of sensitivity. So let's still keep it. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such and productive communities? Fruitful and productive communities. Again, all 3, for me, the first blank, the word common seems slightly out of place, but the second and third one seem to fill in. So we'll keep it for now. Let's not eliminate it. If we do not find any more convincing options, we'll go with A. Let's go to option B. Fragile, fascinating and prolific. Coral reefs are one of the most fragile, biologically complex. Yeah, so they are complex in the sense that so fragile conveys a degree of weakness or refers to something being endangered or on the verge of extinction, etc. So fragile seems to fit in best. Coral reefs are one of the most fragile, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on earth. Fits in. Second, this ecosystem is one of the fascinating paradoxes of the biosphere. Yeah, paradoxes goes in well with fascinating, because paradoxes is something we don't understand, and when we get to know that, it's like a wow moment. So fascinating seems to fit in, and fragile seems to be a more convenient option than common. Moving on to the next. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such prolific and productive communities? Again, prolific is something that is related to production again. I mean, good at producing something on large scale. So, producing or doing at large scales. So, when we say the writer is prolific at writing novels, we say that he probably has a higher number of pages he writes for his novel every day, etc. So, again, B is also a convincing option, and B seems more convincing than A. Let's keep both of them. But given a chance between A and B, I would go for B rather than A because common seems to be slightly out of place. Let's move on to C. Deep, strange and exuberant. Okay. Coral reefs are one of the most deep, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on Earth. First of all, most deep doesn't fit in. We'll say deep, deeper, deepest, not deep, more deepest, deep. That doesn't work, but nevertheless, this seems out of place. But we'll move on to the next one also. This ecosystem is one of the strange paradoxes of the biosphere. Again, strange fits in, strange, fascinating. All of these convey something that is unknown to the general public or us or the readers. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such dash and productive communities? Exuberant and productive communities. Yeah, exuberant normally conveys a high degree of enthusiasm. So, I mean, yeah, again, because of the first blank, this probably takes a backseat slightly, but otherwise, this also seems convincing. The last one, frail, unrecognized, wealthy. Okay. Coral reefs are one of the most frail, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on Earth. Again, fits in. Frail is again weak. Fragile is slightly susceptible to danger, more or less on the lines of weak. Again, frail also falls along the same lines. This ecosystem is one of the unrecognized paradoxes of the biosphere. Tricky question. All the options seems to fit in well. Again, unrecognized paradoxes seems to fit in because, as I said earlier, paradoxes are something that is not visible to everybody, that is not understood by everybody. So, unrecognized also fits in well. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such wealthy and productive communities? Wealthy and productive communities, again, so by communities, I think here we are referring to the marine ecosystem, the kind of crops, the kind of underwater resources that we find. So again, wealthy also seems to fit in, but wealthy is mostly attributed to people who are rich and all that. So also, yeah, so we are here. I mean, there is no straightforward elimination in this question. Now we need to choose the best of the lot. So we can obviously, as we can see, A and C are A and C do not take as much precedence as B. So we'll eliminate A and C because as we saw, the first blank seems more complete with fragile or frail. So between B and D, now we need to kind of see which one fits in best. So with B, we have the most fragile, biologically complex ecosystems, one of the fascinating paradoxes, and nutrient poor water supports such prolific and productive communities. Yeah. So now we come to the third blank that is going to be our killer differentiator. When it comes to the second blank, we see that productive goes well with prolific, which also conveys a similar meaning, and wealthy is slightly out of place because first of all, it doesn't relate to the idea of being productive. Secondly, so here we see that nutrient poor waters. So we can clearly see that there should be some amount of extra effort that goes in for these communities to thrive. So more than wealthy, prolific fits in best. So between D and B, we are going with B as the final option. Coral reefs are one of the most fragile, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on Earth. This ecosystem is one of the fascinating paradoxes of the biosphere. How do clear and thus nutrient poor waters support such prolific and productive communities? Also, this question, when you precede it with the adjective fascinating, it becomes like a suspense element. So that is also one element that ties to why we chose B. Unrecognized need not necessarily convey that level of suspense or that level of eagerness on what is yet to come in the form of this question. So we are going with B as the final answer.